So fellas, since this weekend we've got UFC 321, I thought we'd go through all the main fights on the card and pick the ideal outcome for every fight on UFC 321. If I had to control the outcome, the best case scenario for each main fight, this is what it'd be. And we'll start off with Mr. Barnett himself, Chris Barnett versus Hamdy Abdelwahab. Now, I picked Abdelwahab to win. Not a super confident pick. It's a bit of a coin flip. Two blobby heavyweights going out there. I picked Hamdy Abdelwahab because Chris Barnett's 5'9" in the heavyweight division. The guy injured himself by jumping. But the ideal outcome would be, make no mistake, Chris Barnett by KO in the first round. Barnett's one of the few characters in the heavyweight division. Heavyweight isn't a division with much personality. Chris Barnett's one of the biggest personalities in the sport. He's one of the only guys that actually has energy out there. He's probably the best fat heavyweight in the UFC in terms of personality. And obviously, human highlight reel as well. Obviously, that massive KO he had about 4 years ago over Gian Vellante, one of the best highlight reels in the UFC. Even that fight he had with Jake Collier, one of the best heavyweight fights we've had in the past couple of years. The guy, he's always in entertaining fights. He always has a moment. He's one of the only, like I said, guys with energy in the heavyweight division. So for him to knock out Hamdy Abdelwahab, I think will be amazing. And Hamdy Abdelwahab is just a boring PD cheat. He's had a couple of fights in the UFC. All of them have been boring. All of them have been close. None of them have been entertaining. So if Chris Barnett can go out there and slump Hamdy Abdelwahab, that'd be sick. You know, and Chris Barnett is one of those heavyweights that I just hope stays in the UFC, because the day that Chris Barnett gets cut from the UFC or leaves the UFC is going to be a sad day for the heavyweight division, because what else are we supposed to watch unranked in the heavyweight division? So even though he fights once a year, I think we are due a big Chris Barnett moment. We had that one with Gian Vellante. We had that one with Jake Collier a couple of years back as well. I'm due a Chris Barnett KO. First round KO for Chris Barnett would definitely, I think he'd definitely get a bonus for it as well. So Chris Barnett kicking off the card, well, not kicking off the card, but getting a KO on the prelims would be the ideal outcome. Then we've got Ikram Aliskerov versus Jung Park. I thought I'd choose this fight as well. Big fight in the middleweight division. Winner's probably going to get someone in the top 15. I picked Ikram Aliskerov to win. Again, it's a very close fight, but I just trust that Ikram could be the next big thing in the middleweight division. And the ideal outcome would be Ikram Aliskerov by KO in the first round. If Ikram can get a quick finish in this fight, I think it'd do wonders for his career. Now, Jung Park, again, I like Jung Park. He's just, you know, he's this entertaining guy, at least from a personality perspective. I still feel like Ikram Aliskerov has a ton of potential for the middleweight division. You look at his record. Only 20% of his wins by decision. Great KO artist, great submission artist. I mean, you look at his record as well. He's brutalizing everybody. He's only 2 losses in the UFC. It's a Khamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker themselves. He's a submission artist, this Sambo champion before the UFC. Great on the ground, heavy hands on the feet as well. Evidently one of the hardest hitting dudes coming up in the middleweight division. So if he can go out there and knock out Jung Park, I think that'll be the ideal outcome. I've picked by knockout as well, because like I said, if he can get like a good highlight reel knockout over Jung Park, who's killing it in the middleweight division himself, it's probably going to have to be someone in the top 15 again for Ikram Aliskerov. And like I said, a couple of years back, he was on my list for one of the best prospects we had in the middleweight division. I thought he was going to be one of the, you know, the next big things in the middleweight division. Obviously got knocked out by Whittaker, but there's not really any shame in that. So if Ikram can get a good KO in the first round over Jung Park, this would be his first real big win in the UFC, because he's got a couple of wins, not against anybody really elite. If he can knock out Jung Park, that's a big win for Ikram. It would kind of reinforce the idea that he's going to be something big in the middleweight division, and obviously you can give him someone in the top 15 after that. So Ikram Aliskerov, KO in the first round would be the ideal outcome. I don't really want to see Jung Park get knocked out. Like I said, he's a nice, you know, good personality and everything, but I'm still bought on the hype of Ikram, and I still think he's got potential in the middleweight division. Then we've got Aleksandar Rakic versus Murzakanov kicking off the main card. Now, I picked Murzakanov to win. He's got the momentum. Rakic has not been looking great in these past couple of fights, so I picked Murzakanov to win by KO. Again, though, pretty even fight, but the ideal outcome would be just that, Murzakanov by KO in the first round. Rakic has already proved that he's never going to be a top contender. Are people going to talk about how he's only lost to the top guys? And you're right, but, you know, he fought Ankalaev, you know, last year, ended up losing pretty comfortably to Ankalaev, lost all 3 rounds, got outstruck by Ankalaev. It was a boring fight. Ankalaev got the win. He fought Yuri Prohaska at UFC 300, and even though he had success early on, inevitably in I think it was the second round, got caught and finished by Yuri Prohaska, another top contender. Even a couple of years back in 2019, he fought Volkan Oezdemir. Lost to Volkan Oezdemir as well by decision. He fought Jan Blachowicz. Obviously, there's a freak injury in that fight with Jan Blachowicz, but he wasn't dominating the fight anyway. So Rakic has already proved that he's not a top contender, and his last finish was back in 2019 as well. I know he had that layoff due to the injury and everything, but Rakic, I don't see being anything crazy in the light heavyweight division. Whereas Azamat Murzakanov, even though it's a bit too early, he's still got potential to be a new top contender in this division. He's this 5 foot, I think he's 5'9" or 5'10" for the light heavyweight division blob, who happens to be super athletic. KO ability on the feet. 4 of his 5 finishes in the UFC have been by KO. Undefeated upcomer in the light heavyweight division. So if he can go out there and knock out Aleksandar Rakic, that's a bit of a statement-making performance, doing something that obviously Ankalaev couldn't do, Jan Blachowicz couldn't do, Volkan Oezdemir couldn't do. Massive win for for Murzakanov, and I think we don't need, but it'll be good to see some new names at the top of light heavyweight, especially if Poton's going to be moving up to the heavyweight division. Maybe like a Murzakanov versus like a Roundtree or a Yuri or an Ankalaev. Some of those type of guys I think will be entertaining. So I think Murzakanov's got more potential. He hasn't lost to the top guys. I think he's more dangerous than Rakic, probably more entertaining than Rakic too. So again, nothing against Rakic, and it would be good to see him get a good win, but I think he should be thinking about the heavyweight division if anything. I'd rather see Rakic move to heavyweight than stay in this division. He's already proved that he's not a top contender, so I think the ideal outcome would be a good highlight reel by Murzakanov, sending Rakic to the heavyweight division while Murzakanov becomes a top contender at light heavyweight. Then we've got Aleksandar Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. Now, my prediction was that Volkov gets the job done. I think Volkov's still quite an underrated heavyweight, very well-rounded, very experienced as well. 50 pro fights, or 49 pro fights. No, yeah, 54 pro fights. But the ideal outcome would be Jailton Almeida by sub in the first round. Now, this is kind of tough because I do feel bad for Volkov. The fact that he got robbed by Ciryl Gane, and every single time he comes so close to getting a title fight, something gets in the way, whether it's him getting knocked out by Derek Lewis last second, or obviously the robbery to Ciryl Gane. And this is another #1 contender fight, but you've kind of got to go with a fresh contender in Jailton Almeida. I mean, he's one of the only heavy grapplers coming up in the heavyweight division. We haven't really got too many grapplers in this division. Jailton Almeida is one of them. He's got the momentum. He seems to be finishing everybody. He's an insane grapple. His only loss is to Curtis Blades. And if you look at his record as well, since the Contender Series, every single one of his wins, apart from the Derek Lewis, has been a finish in the UFC. This guy, for a heavyweight, has got one of the best records we've got in the UFC right now. So, and I think it's more intriguing than the Ciryl Gane fight as well, even though I still think Aspinall slumps him. I think because Jailton Almeida is still kind of unproven. He hasn't really lost to any elite guys yet. I mean, he lost to Curtis Blades, but, you know, he's improved since then. And the fact that he's like a brand new style, I think that's more intriguing than Ciryl Gane. So I would not be mad if Volkov wins. I'd be happy for Volkov that he gets another shot at the title. And I do think stylistically, Volkov would be the biggest test to Aspinall in this division. But I think we need some new names at the top of heavyweight for Tom Aspinall. Jailton Almeida would be one of them. He's this new guy, fresh, bunch of finishes, easy to promote. So Jailton Almeida, I think getting a sub in the first round would be statement making over Volkov. And I think it would be big for the heavyweight division. Then we've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. I picked Umar to win. I think he gets a pretty comfortable unanimous decision win over Mario Bautista, and the ideal outcome would be Umar by KO in the first round over Mario Bautista. Obviously, there's the whole narrative that Mario Bautista did that thing to Aldo. Somebody needs to slump him. If Umar's the guy, I'm not mad at that. But I say this because Umar's the only real big threat to Merab. We obviously saw this fight this year at UFC 311. And it was a very, very competitive fight. Merab's closest fight so far in his title reign. Umar won the early rounds. Some people even delusional enough to say that Umar won the fight, but there's no doubting that Umar brought the fight to Merab in his second ever ranked fight, and, you know, made it a tough test. If you look at the scorecards as well, even though Merab obviously won, the scorecards weren't too far apart. Umar was only like a round away from beating Merab, so I think if Umar can go out there and get a good knockout win specifically over Mario Bautista, it would be statement making. If he can slump Mario Bautista, not just get a 15-minute control fest, but knock him out cold, that would show the improvements for Umar, and the hype for him going into a rematch with Merab would be massive. So for the sake of the division, I think Umar getting a good knockout would obviously bring hype for the fight with Merab in 2026, and it would also make him a top contender. If Mario Bautista wins, I guess it's a fresh contender for Merab, which was what we need, but I still feel like Umar and Merab 2 is still just as exciting as the first time around. I think Umar's improved, and again, he had a lack of experience going into the first fight, so Umar by KO in the first round, I think would be the ideal outcome. It would be good for Umar's highlight reel. It would push him right into the Merab fight, and I still think he's got potential of beating him. And then we've got Jandiroba versus Dern. I mean, this is a bit of a pick your poison fight. I picked Jandiroba to win. She's got the momentum. I just think she's better everywhere the fight goes than Dern. The ideal outcome would be, though, Mackenzie Dern to get a sub in the first round over Virna Jandiroba. Mackenzie Dern would be a pretty good face of the strawweight division, and I mean, not just literally a good face, but she's obviously got this, you know, attraction to her. She's got the looks as well, which is kind of what you want in a women MMA champion. Easy to promote, easy, you know, just easy promotionable woman is Mackenzie Dern. She might not be consistent as well, but she's always in a fun fight. You know, she's a submission artist. She's always in fun fights, whether she's going out there and out grappling people, getting a finish like she did earlier on this year, or even if she's losing. She's got the goofiest losses in the UFC. She's always getting like knocked out or wobbled all over the place. Mackenzie Dern usually is always in fun fights, so I'd probably have her as a champion, probably more more promotable than Virna Jandiroba, more entertaining fights than Virna Jandiroba, and I've picked it to win by submission in the first round because, let's be honest, we don't want to watch this fight for 25 minutes. We're going to get it over and done with and move on to the Aspinall fight. So I'd pick Dern to win, probably a better face as a champion than Virna Jandiroba, probably more promotable, probably more of an entertaining fighter as well. So for the sake of the strawweight division, I'd probably go Mackenzie Dern by sub in the first round, and then Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Now, you already know my stance on this. I'm picking Aspinall to win by however he wants, and the ideal outcome would be Aspinall to slump Ciryl Gane in the first round. I kind of covered this yesterday, but essentially in summary, Ciryl Gane would be the worst heavyweight champion we can have right now in the UFC, and I'm not saying that for, you know, him as a person or anything, but this guy's been finished by John Jones, who's now retired on the couch. He's also lost to Francis Ngannou, who's now over in PFL. He also arguably got robbed by Alexander Volkov in his last fight. If he was to become the champion, he'd literally be the 4th best heavyweight in the world. Jones at home would be better, and Ngannou in PFL would be better. Volkov in the fucking sidelines would be better as well. Gane would be the 4th best heavyweight in the world whilst carrying UFC gold, whereas Aspinall's the ideal champion. I mean, first of all, he's willing to fight literally anyone. We saw that in the Pavlovich fight, where he stepped up on, I think, 2 weeks' notice to face the scariest guy in the UFC. He said he's happy to fight Jones. He said he's happy to fight Porton. He's a respectable champion as well. Nice guy, easy, guy to talk to on the mic. Statistically fun, first round finishes flying all over the place, shortest average fight time in the UFC, and obviously when you watch his fights, it's usually over within a minute and a half, and he's him slumping somebody out cold. He's one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous guy we've got right now in the UFC. He's kind of like a must not blink type of fighter in the UFC, so I've picked Aspinall to KO Gane in the first round. He is the best heavyweight champion we can have, and like I've said, Gane is one of the worst. Now, I picked him to win by KO specifically. Knocking out Gane would be statement making, because Gane's kind of seen one of these light on the feet best strikers in the heavyweight division. Can you imagine Aspinall goes out there and slumps Ciryl Gane like he did to Pavlovich or Tibura or Blades? That'd be crazy for Tom Aspinall to slump Ciryl Gane. I mean, first of all, it would shut any doubt about the whole John Jones Twitter thing, because obviously Aspinall's just taken one of John Jones's best heavyweight win and knocked him out. But like I said, to do that to Ciryl Gane of all people, to knock out Ciryl Gane, that would be massive for Tom Aspinall, something that even Ngannou couldn't do. So the best case scenario for the main event would be a quick early KO for Aspinall. It would boost his hype astronomically. His first main event against, I guess, his best opponent in the UFC so far. Aspinall by KO in the first round would be the best case scenario. But those would be the ideal outcomes for every main fight on UFC 321. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what you personally think, if you agree with me or not. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.